Delegitimizing the Big 12 kills the Big 12. And if you kill the Big 12, you kill Locked On Big 12, which is this.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from ESPN Central Texas, and I would like to keep my job. Thanks for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. This podcast is something that ESPN and the powers that be in college football want to kill because they are at least toying with the idea of a new format of the college football playoff that creates three automatic bids for the Big 10 and the SEC, two for the ACC and the Big 12. Ross Dellenger reported this at Yahoo Sports, and I think it is the stupidest possible thing that any of us could do. We went from having the idea of, okay, 4 teams get in, which really didn't feel like it made all that much sense. Like, 4 is just a funky number. 8 seems cool. Maybe 12 seems right. 4 is kind of weird. Either do 2 or 8 or 12. We did 4 for a long time, and now we're moving into the realm of 12, where it's like, okay, we can test this out before we even test it out. Let's move to 14. Now, the reason we're doing that is because due to TV contracts, we have to rework this deal by 2026. Well, we have to do it long before 2026 so that something is in place that beginning that year, after 2 years, the 12-team format, we can go to something else. Now, will we stay 12-team? Will it work? We don't know. Get this. We are not going to see a 12-team college football playoff format before we already decide what to do in 2026. There is no test trial. There is no run on whether or not this works. We have to jump into something new because the 10 commissioners, as well as Notre Dame's president, who gets to be involved in all of these conversations, need to decide with haste, whether or not they move forward in a 12-team, 16-team, 14-team, whatever they do format to sign a new TV contract for 2026. Now, according to Dellenger, one of the things that's on the table is a 3-3, 2-2-1 format, which he says is not surprising considering the variety of ideas that were put forth this week. Now, with CFP revenue sharing model, as well as a voting structure and other unresolved issues, there are questions to be asked of how this whole thing will work. But before I even get there, this sucks. It's not the 14 best teams in college football. It's what if we cater to the needs of the SEC and the Big 10? It's not, hey, this team was legitimate. They could make it. Well, they didn't match in the qualifying, right? I mean, they're an ACC team. They're a Big 12 team. And we feel like the Big 10 and the SEC, they're better historically, so they deserve more spots, right? What we have done is we have now tiered college football. And I get that's how European soccer works. When I tell you, I'm done. I am done. I don't want to hear the stupid thing about European soccer. If that turns you off, you're like, oh man, I love the European soccer model. The European soccer model is delegitimizing the Big 12. It's saying, hey, we all know the SEC and the Big 10 are better, so much so competition-wise, we're going to give them 3 automatic bids. Here's my question to you. As Ross Dellenger puts, this is going to help the regular season. This could be something that makes the regular season more interesting down the stretch and actually gives you more competition in conference play because now you're looking at, hey, am I the second best team in the conference or the third best team or the fourth best team? Will I make it in? But then what if you're number 15 overall in the country and you're out of your conference championship race? You're out of the top 2 spots in the ACC or the top 2 spots in the Big 12, and now you're praying for an automatic qualifier position, or you're number 17 in the country, you're 20 in the country, staring to the same barrel of that. Here's another question I'll pose. What if you're Pitt and you accidentally win the ACC championship? You lose 2 non-conference games. You luck out, only lose 1 game of the regular season of the ACC and win your conference championship. Now, I get that moving forward in the new format of 12 teams, you're still going to make the college football playoff. But how does that slide other teams down? Who gets shorted in this when we don't just pick the 14 best teams, the 12 best teams? I understand having the automatic qualifier here from one conference. Every conference gets one. That's what I'm trying to put forward here. I get that. The conference champion, you did it. You won. You go to the college football playoff. When we start counting numbers and making them uneven from the Big 10 to the Big 12, that's when things become an issue. Why? I'm not happy with it. So I know the Baylor's not happy with it, and BYU's not happy with it, and Colorado's not happy with it, and I can't imagine that Brett Yormark's happy with it. You know what's even crazier than this? We talk about the death of the ACC and how that's going to shatter college athletics. Do you think Florida State's going to be happy when they just got left out because their conference schedule wasn't good enough and their quarterback went down? And, Texas got in for the Big 12 and they had a loss, but Florida State didn't. They're unhappy with that. And do you think they're going to be happy with the compromise of, you got left out. Now there are 2 automatic qualifiers from your conference, but 3 from the SEC and 3 from the Big 10. Now, where does Notre Dame fall into this too? There are so many things to piece together out of this that just don't make a lot of when can we make it easy? And with the idea that ESPN can make $100+ million per game in the college football playoff, I understand adding more teams. I understand trying to add more parity. But what I have seen, legitimately what I've seen in college football, there are like 7 teams tops that can win a national championship every year. Tops. Moving to 12, it's going to take us a long time for anyone seeded 8 through 12 to win a national championship if it ever happens before we change formats. And it probably will not. I would almost bet that it will not. So what do? We keep adding more teams to add more revenue. I'm not exactly upset with that. Fine. Now it's going to give the Big 12 more opportunities. It gives a team like Utah, if they go 11-2, enough mulligans they can still compete. However, when in that scenario, we are taking the SEC and saying, hey, wait a second, we've got 3 SEC teams that got in and 2 automatic qualifiers from the Big 12. Utah's 11-2. I don't really know if we can take them. Well, they lost their conference championship. Well, what does the conference championship matter now? Does that decide 1 and 2? And does it matter to be number 1? Does it matter to be number 2? Do both those teams make it? What if there's a really good team that got left out? What if because the way the conference schedule fell, Utah wasn't as good as Kansas State, where they won more games because they had an easier conference slate because of the way the rotation was? What about that? Why, again, and that's why I posed the question, why does it have to be based on conference standings? We're not diluting the regular season by making it at-large teams get in, that 12 at-large or 14 at-large, or the conference champions get in and then it's at-large is past that. We're not diluting the regular season because guess what? You're still fighting to be an at-large. There's a reason that in the NFL, where so many teams make the postseason, what is it, like 14 now out of 32 teams make the postseason, the regular season still matters. They still sell out those games. People still show up. Why? Because constantly you're fighting for a playoff spot. And guess what? All these people are like, oh, well, I think the college football playoff does delegitimize the regular season. No. The lack of a playoff delegitimizes the regular season. How? Because if you are, let's say you're a top 15 Oklahoma State team and you start 4-2, you're still really good at football. But even if you go 10-2 in a format where 2 teams play for the national championship and there is no playoff, your regular season is over. You're rendered ineffective. Why do people show up when they know you can't go to a national championship? When your aspiration is a national championship game and losing 2 games, forfeits you from that, then what is the whole point the rest of the season? I believe that building this playoff is going to keep the regular season alive, but we don't need to make it automatic bids to different conferences and stagger those numbers in order to preserve the regular season. And we especially don't need to stagger those numbers if we want the health of this sport to survive. What we are saying with this is that the Big 10 and the SEC are so much better than you. Via what? Not Massey ratings, because Massey ratings would have the Big 12 rated the second best conference in college football for the last 5 years. I digress. But we're saying that from a brand standpoint, we guess that you guys, the big dogs, so we're going to give you an extra team. We're going to toss you a bone in there. And guess what? In the 5+7 format that we've moved to in the 12-team playoff, maybe it's all Big 10 and all SEC teams. But now you're talking about shorting conferences like the ACC and the Big 12, and teams are not going to sit there and take that. You are creating the very first steps of a 2-league super mega top of college football, and everybody else kind of falls behind. This is what I keep bringing up of why is the Big 12 sitting around in the NCAA? Why is the Big 12 letting Jack Swarbrick at Notre Dame call the shots here, get invited to the table, right? Why are there talking heads in these rooms that don't believe the Big 12 is a legitimate force in college football, that aren't coming to the table with the best interest of college football in mind? At what point does the Big 12, just like the SEC and the Big 10 are already talking about, say, enough is enough. We're just kind of going to do our own thing with somebody else. We don't want to play with you, NCAA, anymore. You don't have any of your stuff together. I hope that day comes, because right now this is all just frustrating. Putting the Big 12 behind the ACC and the Big 10 with a number by adding less teams into the college football playoff automatically delegitimizes this conference, and it kills it. because no one's going to sit around and just go be in the conference that everybody knows is worse than the SEC and the Big Ten. And now we've legitimized that claim by giving them more opportunities to win a national championship. That is stupid. And it doesn't work for me. Coming up, Iowa State Hoops is elite. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. eBay Motors keeps your ride or die alive. I get in wrecks sometimes. I don't know. It's kind of a fun thing for me to do. Like, not bad wrecks, but fender benders. I bend my fender. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophies. Also, it keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need. So when I get a little fender bender, I can get a fender without that bender from eBay Motors, as well as superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, style, power, any of that, eBay Motors has got you covered. 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, eBay, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride. Get it? eBay Guaranteed Fit. That's what you're burning rubber, not cash. Right now, all the parts you could possibly need. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. That's ebaymotors.com. Iowa State basketball might win a national championship, and the referees in the Big 12 absolutely suck again. I don't know if you watched UCF and Oklahoma State in Stillwater, but I hope for your sake that you didn't and your children didn't, because it will ruin your life and their lives. It was dismal, piss poor, awful. I will tell you why I think Iowa State can win a national championship based off not just last night, but overall season analytics. But first, Oklahoma State shot 30 free throws. UCF shot 36 free throws. That is 66 combined free throws that were shot in this game. 26 fouls against UCF, 28 fouls against Oklahoma State, 54 overall. That is unwatchable. That is a product that does not match the skill. Two teams that are still good. UCF is still a good basketball team, a competent basketball team. Oklahoma State still has talent. They still have, I mean, they're going to fire their coach, but it's a Big 12 team. They would win any league outside of the Power 5, right? That it makes it like, I just want to watch a good game, and they ruin it. That's my fun aside. Iowa State is so insanely good. The defense against Oklahoma was criminal. It's tough to put into words just how suffocating Iowa State is on that side of the ball. 58-45 final score, holding the Sooners to 45. The last time that Oklahoma will play in Hilton Coliseum was a huge, dominating defensive win for Iowa State. Watching this game, it is, if you're a basketball casual, it is boring because you have to appreciate defense in its finest art. And it's not just forcing turnovers. It is making Oklahoma shoot awful shots. They only made 15 field goals in this game. They only turned the ball over 14 times. That's honestly not that bad. Iowa State turned it over 8 times. The ball control offensively is great. Oklahoma turning it over 14 times isn't egregious necessarily, but they only got 18 points in the paint. They only got, again, 15 shots off. They were 3 for 17 from 3 and 15 for 46 overall. Iowa State shot the ball 17 more times than Oklahoma. They forced the Sooners late into the shot clock and just looked superb. Iowa State had just 2 starters play over 30 minutes in this game as well. One of those obviously being Tamin Lipsey. And I've said this on 2 podcasts, now 3 podcasts before with Locked On Big 12. Even when Tamin Lipsey is not the best player on the floor, even when he has an off night to the tune of 2 for 13, 0 for 3 from the three-point line, doesn't stand on double-digit points, only puts up 8. Not a single Iowa State starter scored double digits last night, by the way. Even when that happens with Tamin Lipsey, they're still elite. Demarion Watson is right there to clean things up for you. I came off the bench last night, and there are 8 guys that can contribute on the defensive side of the ball for the Cyclones. They are, and Tamin Lipsey being one of them. Even when his offense is not superb, his defense is nuts. And I don't know if I can explain to you how magical it is to watch Iowa State basketball. I know I'm seeing wax poetic about them when Houston might be, this is a point to make. Sorry, Iowa State fans, to throw this one in there. Houston might be the greatest Big 12 team from a metric standpoint of all time. They might end this season as the greatest Big 12 team in history based on their current analytics. According to Shot Quality, they're the number one team in the country defensively. They are number 5 in the country in adjusted offense and number 1 in the country in adjusted shot quality. They are 0.05 plus ahead of the next highest team, Alabama. You think, 0.05 is not that much. Well, that 0.05 gap goes all the way from Alabama down to Auburn, 12 spots below it. That's how big the gap is. Houston to Alabama is the same gap from Alabama at number 2 to Auburn at number 12. That's a pretty good jump. Houston is insane. But again, this isn't about Houston. It's about Iowa State, who, by the way, according to Shot Quality, Iowa State also ranked below Baylor, who is 5th defensively and 18th offensively, according to Shot Quality, and BYU, who's 23rd defensively and 9th offensively. For Iowa State, this is a team that is 48th in offensive rebounding in America, according to Shot Quality, 2nd in the country, 2nd in turnovers forced via percentage, 2nd in fewest shots allowed defensively at the rim. And you saw that with their nuts lane defense against Oklahoma. And they also are 30th in the country offensively in passing and efficient transition. They're 42nd. This is a team in the top 50 in some of the most key categories because they're defensive going into March. And that's why, with the leadership of Taman Lipsey, I think Iowa State might be the most dangerous team. They give you endless defense, which I know Houston has that too with a better offense. They give you endless defense, and they've been here. The question I have for Houston is one I don't have to have for Iowa State. That question is, after a full season in the Big 12, after your first full season in the Big 12, you've really gotten to experience what this gauntlet is and what it means to be a power conference team. Can you sustain through March Madness? Is Houston built to withstand March? Now, on analytically, yes, but we haven't seen them go through an entire Big 12 season, hit the gauntlet, and then have to play in this single elimination format. That being said, Iowa State doesn't have that problem. They're chilling. They've seen Big 12 action before. Taman Lipsey, again, when he's not the all-star superstar, is still so good that this team scares me. I don't care who I am. And I think Iowa State has such a good shot to win in March because the question of whether or not they can load manage, whether or not they can be ready for March is not one you have to ask because they've been in the Big 12. For Houston, it's, how do they adjust? How do they look? What is the wear and tear moving forward? Iowa State, not so. Not so. I think they're good. I think they're better than good. And the Big 12 referees have got to get better than good. Can Brett Yormark just address this in the offseason, please? He fined Mac Rhodes $25,000. Let the kids storm the court, make the referees better. I know I'm the old man, get off my lawn. Jay Billis is wrong. Seth Greenberg is wrong. All these guys are missing the wrong. They are talking about the wrong things. We shouldn't be talking about court storming right now when there's a much bigger issue over in the Big 12 and its officials just being terrible at their jobs. It's the worst. Coming up, sports. Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel's where I go to make money. I saw last night that South Carolina was an underdog at Texas A&M. And if you know anything about Texas A&M basketball, they suck, and South Carolina is good. So I said, I'll bet on South Carolina. They were 5.5-point underdogs. I took their money line, and it hit. South Carolina won. So FanDuel, you know what they do? They give me money. That's why I use FanDuel, and you should use FanDuel too. FanDuel.com/locked on. Bet $5 on the money line of your team to win. And if your team actually wins, you get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/locked on to shoot your shot. Quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Do it with the NBA. Do it with March Madness. Do it all with this special promo. $5 down on a money line for your team to win. And if they win at FanDuel.com/locked on, you get $150 in bonus bets. Can't find it much better than that. FanDuel, the official sports book of the NBA. All right, that'll do it for today. Cutting it a little bit short because those two segments were long and passionate. Exactly like I like it. Iowa State is stupid good. ESPN and greed is intent on killing the Big 12 and the ACC by saying, hey, you take a backseat to what the Big 10 and the SEC are. And when that happens, when we have the actual college football playoff committee saying you two aren't good enough to play with the big boys the way the big boys play, that is when we kill everything that I know and love about college football, and it's when Locked On Big 12 is in danger. What can I host next? Locked On Mississippi State is open, I think. Might have to go over there. Bulldogs. Like one of those bells, what do they use? Cowbells? Maybe? I don't know. I hope we don't have to have that conversation, but if the Big 12 is like, we're just putting those two on a pedestal, the SEC and the Big 10. What's new? Makes them money. I get it. This has been, always will be, Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.